What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into episode number 13 of the Tuesday Track Talk podcast. I'm your host, Kellen, your Jackman.
2 cans of fuel. I'm your gas man, Cameron.
Going for 4 tires as the tire changer. I'm Cam.
And man, we got a good one for you today. We have kind of a wild slate of things to cover here. We're going to touch on the state of the sprint car world when you talk about the new high limit, and guys are finally starting to string together some announcements here on where they're going in terms of series and all that good stuff. So we'll kind of touch on a little bit of everything sprint car racing, and then we will jump into our main course for today, if we call it that, the Boomer Bust of 2023. So we got three different series. Should be good. The crews kind of come together with what they believe is who are superstars and who are not stars. So this will be a good one. But first, what fellas, how we doing?
Good. I obviously with no racing kind of going on this weekend, I did a couple of different things. I went to a hockey game on Saturday night, just a little junior hockey league that we got up here in Chippewa, and I sent the snap to you guys. One of the glass panels broke from a hit on the boards on Saturday night. Right, thought I'd never see that in my life. So that was interesting to see. Me and one of the guys were kind of, well, let's see if we can put this in better than what these buffoons are doing, because it was about an hour before they finally got the new panel put in. But
Right.
between that and $250 on pull tabs on for lunch on Saturday afternoon, that's about as eventful as my weekend was.
Nice.
Nothing super new here. Badgers officially got a new slinger of the pigskin today. So
Who'd they get?
a transfer quarterback from Miami.
Hmm.
3-year starter.
Miami, or are we talking Miami, Ohio?
The Miami. 3-year starter. Stats don't look super great. Sounds like he needed a change of scenery. So I don't know. We'll see. It's like NFL free agency out there in college right now. So
Yeah, for real.
interesting. But no, as we were speaking, I was bouncing back and forth in my brain of what for today's main course. My topics. I was making a couple last minute changes there. So
Little debate going on here already.
yep, we'll debate it out. We'll see what you guys think. I'm going back to what I originally thought. And we'll see what happens. So no, looking forward to another episode, and think she's gonna be a doozy.
Well, that kind of wraps up the new news in the life of the pit crew. I think it's time to talk a little sprint car racing. And we're going to talk everything sprint car racing. So, obviously, the news has come out about High Limit and this new series and the vision that these guys have with this series. But I guess kind of looking at it short term here, what are some surprises or not surprises that you guys have seen in terms of drivers committing to run either High Limit or World Outlaws?
I don't think I'm really surprised as far as the guys that have committed to World Outlaws versus the guys that have committed to High Limit. I think if you would have put, an entire list of guys out there and you would say, all right, you draft them on your own, where would you put them? I think we would be pretty damn close as far as where these guys are going. Just because I think it's a little bit of the guys that used to run the All-Star Circuit Champs, I think, are staying with the high limits just because it's a familiar schedule. Guys that have run with Kyle Larson and Brad Sweeten, maybe kind of buddies with them, they'll run with them. But you get those guys that have run the World Outlaws, and that's kind of their history and their roots. They're kind of sticking with the World Outlaws, given you got some guys that still need to make some decisions. But I think out of the guys that have said something so far, I think that's kind of what I'm picking up on.
Yeah, I guess I would echo that sentiment that there hasn't been I guess a real uh,
Like a jump ship
newsbreaker.
kind of guy.
Yeah, like a big, newsbreaker that's like, hey, holy smokes, did not expect that. I'm just looking at the list on my phone right now. Um, like you said, I think it's going as expected. Um, we're kind of keeping, the guys that ran the Outlaws are sticking with the Outlaws. The guys um, that ran All Stars are going with the All Stars, but um, I don't know. I definitely think it's going to be an interesting conversation going forward after, next year when we're having this conversation after 1 year. Um, seeing what, the reviews are or what drivers are saying about the program that Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson put together. Obviously, I think they're going to do good things. It's two of the best of the best. They know what they're doing. And two of the most respected, I would say. And it's just interesting, like Rico, who was kind of a question mark, or has been teasing everybody for like the last month. It seems like, what am I going to do? And he finally comes out and announces, like he said, he's going high limit. And I listened to just a 1 minute interview from him at PRI this past weekend, and he just made it seem like he's buying the vision of what Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet, maybe not immediately, but he was talking, in the next 2, 3, 4 years, where I believe Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet can get sprint car racing. He's like, I believe in what they want to do and where they want to take it. So, I guess, my big takeaway right now is everything's going as, kind of as expected, but I would be interested to see, after a year, one, what are, the high limit guys, what are their reviews? What do they say about, the first year, inaugural year? And then two, as word spreads, Larson and Sweet do their marketing and get the word out of what this vision is and, where they're trying to go with it, if that starts to lure, some of the outlaw guys in. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
So, yeah, and that's a lot of good points there as well, I think. But when you look at it, we still have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13, 14 guys that are yet to make announcements. And you talk about Carson Macedo, Tyler Courtney, Brent Marks, James McFadden, Buddy Kofoid, Ryan Tim, Cole Macedo, Couch Motorsports, Sam Haferty, Anthony Macri, Justin Sanders, Parker Price Miller, and Connor Morrell.
Did you say
So,
Buddy Kofoid or no?
yep, yep, for sure. So we got there's when you talk about sprint car racing, there's some hammers out there yet that um are yet to make a decision. So I would kind of expect those to be coming here soon-ish.
I'm looking
Um,
at that list of those names that you just said right there, and I think there's a couple bigger names that could drive, high limit to say, hey, this is going to be. And I'm looking at Macedo,
yep,
Tyler Courtney,
yep.
and Macri are three bigger name sprint car guys that it's like,
That's who's
you know,
getting the sales pitch right now.
what?
That's who's getting the sales pitch right now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Um, as Brad Sweet's hammer and white claws at the bar.
That was a great photo. That was
Doing business,
fantastic.
smashing blackberry claws and doing business. But no, I think those, some of those, Buddy Kofoid, another big name, Brent Marks. There's just some big names out there that need to be yet solidified, and I think, not that you lean one way or the other, but I think, high limit has a potential like a Carson Macedo, and I would think Courtney would, the trend would be to stick with high limit based on what we've saw and a lot of the all-star guys, staying in high limit, and Tyler Courtney was a all-star guy. So I don't know. Still some big names out there that, like you said, they're getting calls from Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson probably as we speak, talking through the logistics of it and giving them the pitch, and it's going to be interesting. And I think
So, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I got another 5 minute conversation for us. But
um, so for reference, we're referencing this nice graphic that Master Gassers has put out on X. They have been keeping a really good track as far as who's going where, and this real nice graphic. Um, One thing that jumps out, and I didn't realize this before, that Shark Racing has a car in each series. They have Logan Schuchart in the World of Outlaws, and then they have Jacob Allen in the High Limits. So they're dipping into both. Obviously,
Oh,
Larson with his NASCAR schedule is only doing the midweek races, which I think makes sense. I think it that helps that draw in the midweek side of things.
yep.
But I don't know. I look at some of them names and I could make a case for a few of them to go World Outlaws, like a couple of guys that I think are going to go Outlaws. Carson Macedo and James McFadden are two that jump out of the gate.
yeah.
Brent Marks,
Um,
I'm not 100% sold on, but I think he's leaning towards World Outlaws. I think Courtney, like you said, he's a former All Star guy. I think he could go high limits. Buddy Colfoyd is one that I would not be surprised. I bet you if there's a guy that says, "Nah, I'm not going to go either one of them. I'm just going to race whatever." I bet you it's him.
and we do that. There's the possibility of some of these guys say, no, we're going to run this like the Wild Wild West, and we're just going to pick and choose where we go.
And
So
and
may
one
win.
reason I think of that is because he does race midgets often.
Yep.
So that schedule could interfere with both of these series. I think he's gonna if they're running at that same time as if the midgets are running at the same time as any of these two guys, I think he's picking midgets over the sprint cars.
And that's where he makes his hay,
Yep.
is midgets. So one thing I thought, I agree with all your points there where you're leaning. Couple interesting points I've been just seeing on X is first and foremost, we thought things would go pretty peacefully between the two, but it seems to pretty quickly uh we always talk about like, hey, we don't want to, drive a divide in dirt racing. We want to, let's peacefully coexist and whatever. But I just see it didn't take long for it to get pretty polarizing between the two series, between releases, and some people already saying like, what is it in the high limit contract not to speak the words World of Outlaws? Like, it didn't take long for this to get a little bit dicey, which is interesting. Because I saw somebody tweeted him and said, "What does your high limit contracts forbid you from speaking about the World Outlaws?" And Rico just said, "What are they going to do? Arrest me?" So that's kind of interesting. And then the other part that I thought was interesting is, isn't high limit isn't part of their money going back to the drivers?
uh that was one of the I think you're talking about the meteor rights thing. That was gonna kick in a couple years.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, they're going to start, and there's
Which that's a whole nother discussion in its own right.
for sure. But the more power to them, to be able to have the broadcasting rights to flow and being able to kick that back to drivers, that they're not just outright pocketing that money. But so Cam, you kind of touched on it. I mean, and you mentioned it here with kind of some of the polarizing comments and things like that. At this point, both with both series coming out and guys starting to make announcements, are we feeling that this is a healthy rivalry, or is it not enough, or is it gone too far? How are we feeling about the competition itself?
Damn, I'll let you go first. I'm actually doing checking something out here real quick.
Um, I would say right now, um, I would say it's pretty healthy. Um, I would say again what we kind of alluded to before, like driver standpoint right now, I'd say it's pretty evenly split um between your hammers and just good guys. I would say right now it's pretty evenly split, which I'm good with. Like this is I don't know if this is exactly what we're going for. It would be kind of nice to be like, all right, yeah, let's just all get together and let's put the bet, if these were all one series, whatever. But I would say if we're gonna coexist right now, um, pretty evenly split. Um, from a competition perspective, I like both sides. And again, we alluded to some of those. Now, if one series gets some of those bigger names that we already talked about, and they all start going, yeah, high limit, high limit, high limit, or world outlaws, some of those bigger names,
Swing it a little bit.
I would say it would swing it a little bit. But no, I think right now it's a healthy mix competition wise. And again, I kind of touched on it before. I just hope it doesn't get, super political where it's
Doesn't get nasty.
yeah, it doesn't get nasty between high limit and world outlaws. Um trying to poach drivers or, talking, bad about another series. That's where I want to draw the line. But I will go out on a limb and say this: if one thing does have, if we do go down that road, it's coming from the World Outlaws side. Um, and we witnessed that firsthand. World Outlaws at Cedar Lake. If a Lucas Oil guy wins a heat race, they don't get interviewed.
Yeah.
So World Outlaws is very territorial about who they interview and who they promote, and it sucks because it's like World Outlaw guys go win Lucas Oil, and Lucas Oil's like, all right, Nick Hoffman wins a heat race, he gets interviewed, like, whatever. But that's not the case for World Outlaws. So healthy mix. I don't want it to get political or nasty, but if it does go down that road, I think it's going to come from the World Outlaws side.
So to that point, I'm looking at last year's winners. Just because it made me think of something. So on their website, they always have the photo of the driver that won the race.
Mhm.
And this is maybe just media type of thing. They didn't have them at their media uh not availability, media day, media shoot, whatever it is, photo shoot day. But
Yep.
all of the non-World of Outlaw winners are just have like the race logo or the World of Outlaws logo or something along those lines.
Yep.
Versus a World of Outlaws guy, they have their picture in there. Like I said, it just could have been something where they're photos not available, quote unquote type of thing. But it brings up a good point of kind of like not recognizing the outside of World of Outlaw guys. Another thing I want to touch on real quick was I actually looked up the World of Outlaw schedule again. Master Gassers has a combined schedule, which I think we reposted at one point in time as well. I counted the head-to-head races that they had with each other. And if I counted right and looked at the schedule right without getting cross-eyed, there are 27 races that they go head-to-head with each other that they race on the same night.
Different places, you mean?
Yes, different places, same night. Yep.
All right. That's it's a fair amount of nights.
And without, getting a map out, without getting super technical and kind of, getting this whole scenario going again. Getting
Yep.
a map out and like seeing, okay, are they like in the same area? Do they interchange or cross or anything like that? Or are we talking like completely different directions type of thing too, without getting too in depth in it? But that was just something I kind of thought was interesting, and honestly, it happens a lot in the summer. Like it's almost like if I had to take a gander at it, it was almost like an every other weekend, like they're battling head to head with each other.
Yeah. And I mean, you're gonna have that, especially in the summer. Some of these northern tracks that come up by us. You can run from June until end of August, early September. So if you want to make a Midwest swing, or you want to go west, or you want to go northeast, like, you are also limited by calendar. So, and I think that again kind of comes part of the schedule with the high limit now being Tezos or All Star Circuit champs, that they kind of following the same nature of what they've done. You're kind of limited if you want to make some of those different ventures when you talk about a northeast swing or a Midwest swing or a northwest swing. Like, you're just at some point limited by weather in just the nature of the summer. So yeah, I don't know. I so far I feel like I feel like we're in a good spot. I don't feel like we're loaded one way or another. There's a handful of guys to come yet, and who knows, that whole list of guys could say, yeah, we haven't decided. We're just gonna run whatever. Which that won't be the case, but you could have a handful of them do that. So
Yeah, and whether, and like you were saying, Cam, too, it'll be interesting to see what it's like a year down the road or 2 years down the road. Do you see maybe one series get a little heavy loaded with drivers that jump ship versus maybe there's, more races on the high limit schedule versus the World Outlaw schedule, or whatever the case may be. That'll be interesting to see a couple years down the road too. But I think first year going into this coming year, it's going to be good. I think we're going to have some really good racing amongst some really good drivers. There's going to be new faces up in the front, new faces competing for championships. It's going to be interesting.
for sure. So any last little final thoughts on kind of the world of sprint car racing, or sprint car state of the union, if you want to call it that, at this point in the day, this
Do
point
we
in the
want to
season.
touch on that charter deal that they were thinking about doing for high limits?
Yeah, we can kind of talk about that just for a minute.
I'm trying to find their post that they had about it too.
Because then, well, and we can kind of touch on this too, that they had talked about high limit is going to go to a kind of a media broadcasting rights, I'll call it, deal with their drivers, where 10 of their drivers will be getting 50, what is it, 50% of the media rights or the media income, I believe it was.
I'm just trying to find it here. So I want to get it right.
I know that's what I was
Don't be
looking
spreading
for.
false information.
No, we're not. Don't you worry. We never do that here on the podcast.
No. Oh, God dang it. Where is it?
Yeah, where is that?
Here, let's just do it this way. Maybe this will help. Probably didn't help that I just searched high limit and it was going off of that without actually going through the high limit
So
socials page.
well, I found the media rights. So starting in the year of 26, 10 full-time teams will get 50% of the series streaming revenue. So basically, Flow Sports is going to be sending money to 10 teams. 50% of what they would pay a high limit is going to go to 10 racing teams. So again, even there, when you talk about season championships or this charter deal that we're talking touch on here in a moment, but it's another way that you can put money in teams' pockets for showing up. So
I found an article on the charter on NBC Sports. Just Google high limit charter. Based on the points at the end of 2024, the top 5 teams will be awarded charters. At the conclusion of 2025, another 5 teams will receive charters based on their performance during the 2024 and 25 seasons.
yeah,
These will be the top performing teams that do not already have one of the original 5 charters. To be eligible for a charter, teams must compete in every high limit race. Once the charters have been established, media revenue distribution will start in 2026.
okay. So the media
So,
distribution is kind of a second hand to these charters.
so correct. Looks like 2024 and 25, we're going to get settled out who's getting the charters
It's
based
going to
on
be
their
an audition.
performance. What?
Going to be an audition for the charters.
Yep. And then once we get all the charters settled in 2024 and 2025, once the charters are all settled out, then the media revenue distribution will start to those teams, which makes sense if you want to help grow the sport, you know, and you're going to give these teams charters for another car or, whatever. We'll help you out with that. You don't want to give them a charter and say, yeah, you got to go fund this yourself, go find more sponsors and, whatever. It's hard enough to show up to the track with this equipment. But yeah, that's kind of the state there with the charter. So again, that was, another that's another interesting aspect that Rico mentioned with the charter system in his interview. Somebody that's a smaller family owned team like Rico, that might be something that's advantageous to him. Obviously, he just had a really good year. So now he joins High Limit and he gets his small little team gets a charter and they get some serious funding help.
And you got Rico 2-car team.
Rico 2-car team. You got a really good sprint car driver. You got a chance to bring in somebody else. Two good race car drivers together, putting their heads together every weekend. Yeah, it's interesting. So, but no, I will say, final point, you asked for final thoughts on this. I'm looking forward to this. The High Limit, obviously being on Flow, that'll be awesome. I don't watch a ton of World Outlaw sprint races, nearly as much as I should, being on Dirt Vision, but no, I'm looking forward to it. As I always say, like, I love watching it, and want to give them more love. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting next couple weeks here, what we see where some of these last couple dominoes fall, and won't be long. We'll be off to the races.
Yeah. I think I got a lot of 4, 5, 6 race going on a time on this computer thing going on. I might have to actually bust out my old computer just to get an extra monitor sitting here for a couple of races.
Or every weekend between now and well, it come end of January, every weekend between now until the snow falls.
Yeah. My God.
So that kind of wraps up what has been kind of our state of the union for sprint car racing. So pretty cool deal. Excited for it. We're in a good place. We're going to be some good shows, whether you're a World of Outlaws guy or you're excited for the new High Limit deal. Either way, we are going to have some absolutely lights out sprint car racing. So pretty cool deal there for everybody involved with all that. And I just hope we can make 2024 better than 2023. So bringing the people all of the greatness in sprint car racing. So, all right, this is where we get into. This is where we start to debate a little bit of the whole episode. This is the meat and potatoes, as they say. This is Boomer Bust of 2023. And we each kind of selected a different series to look at. Series, surface, car, however you want to say it. To kind of dive into, and we've brought you the Boomer Bust. That's what it was. You picked the series, it was Boomer Bust, and that was your criteria. So, pretty cool little deal. That, again, for all of you that are watching visually, there'll be a live reveal for you, for all you guys that listen on Spotify. You'll get to hear the live reactions as well. So, kind of a cool little deal. I think without further ado, we might as well jump right into the first one. So, Cam, what do you got for us? Boom or bust?
Got 2 cans of fuel.
About to say, don't make sure you're not there. You go. Don't need to bust your
2 cans of
fuel
fuel
right away.
Filling her up, 2 cans full. So we got Gasman cams 2023 boom bust. So obviously we mentioned, or you guys always know, or for you guys that follow along, love dirt late models. Followed Lucas Oil pretty damn close this past year. So
Even got the old turbo shirt on too.
Dang right I do. So, obviously love the series. Love these late models, so thought it would be fitting. So, without further ado, let's get right in. Again, I was looking at this, didn't quite remember where Van Gogh was going, so I went a 35 race minimum for these guys. I didn't feel like it was fair to judge, somebody that's racing 22 races or whatever at a series that's raced in north of 50 races. So kept it 35 race minimum. And then I guess as I was uh really kind of breaking my criteria down is where they finish at the end of the year in the point standings. It was like, did I expect them to land there? Yes or no? And then further from that, let's dig into statistics. So that's kind of where my head was at when I put this together. So without further ado, the number 3 bust, Earl
Ooh.
Pearson, Earl Pearson Jr. Just popping up here, his 2023 stats, 54 features, 19 top 10s, 3 top 5s, no wins. Finished 10th in the points and finished 5th in 2022. So obviously a step in the wrong direction for Earl Pearson Jr. Showed flashes a couple times this year. But again, I felt like somebody who was a big name, but was never quite in the mix to win it this year. So,
Currently looking for a job.
and might have nailed that one right on the head.
I'm serious.
And
That
and
team shut down.
and by no means when we go through this are we ever going to call for somebody's job. That's not what we do.
No.
And we won't ever do that. But I guess from our standpoint, it's expectations and results driven. So by no means are we calling for people's jobs and hoping for them to be jobless, but the facts speak for themselves.
It's a cutthroat business.
Yep. And then also I did bust and then I did my boom right after it. So the number 3 boom I had was Hudson O'Neal. Again, had a solid year, 53 features, 44 top 10s, 32 top 5s, 6 wins. And then you look at him winning the whole deal. The new deal wins the whole deal at the end of the year at Eldora in that wild race. And wins it all. Finished 4th in 2022. So I guess, when I was thinking about my top 3 and when I narrowed it down, it was like, I guess I don't want to say it was a complete, why it wasn't my number 1, being in that rocket house car, you expect good results. But again, he's just a young gun. I believe he's 23 years old. So for him to put together a year like this, the guy could dominate dirt late models for years and years to come. So good year for him. Number 2 bust. Oh no.
Boom. You boomed.
We boomed instead of we busted. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go right into it. Number 2 boom. Devin Moran. In the number 99. So 2023 stats here. You see he's got 53 features, 45 top 10s, 23 top 5s, 2 wins. Season standing finished 2nd and finished 12th in the points in 2022. So I guess I looked at him, thought it was a boom year for him, talked about how much he struggled to start the year, finally figured it out at the end of the year, felt like his team was trending in the right direction. And then as we all watched on that Ralph Eldora track, he was not far from taking home the big check and winning the whole thing. So just thought, somebody who to have this kind of year and lock himself into the championship for, that was just an impressive year for him. And, at the end of the year when he interviewed and said, we struggled early in the year and we feel like we didn't hit our stride till middle, late of the year. Definitely somebody who you can look to get off to a quicker start this year, and would not be surprised to see him back with similar results next year. So the number 2 boom was Devin Moran. The number 2 bust was Tyler Bruning in Skyline Motorsports. You look at his 2023 stats, 39 features, 9 top 10s, 3 top 5s, no wins, finished 15th in the points, up from 2022 where he finished 21st. Again, just not a great year for him. And I don't know, what that all entailed, why we have these results. But again, this was somebody that was always at the track, but just you'd hear his name in hot laps and qualifying, and that'd be about it. And always was interesting or scratching my head on why Skyline sends one car Lucas Oil and one car World Outlaws. Like, let's send them both in the same series so that we can work together and try to get both cars up front. But yeah, I thought it was obviously a disappointing year for Tyler Bruning and Skyline Motorsports. So look to get back to a better year next year. My number 1 bust that's coming up next. Absolutely hated to do this.
Oh God.
He's got the best social media account out there for a race team.
Oh no.
I'm rocking the shirt. He won the dome last year. My number 1 bust was Turbo Tyler Erb.
Dang it.
You look at these stats: 53 features, 22 top 10s, 8 top 5s, 1 win. Finished 8th in the points, down 2 spots from 2022, where he finished 6th in the points. Again, absolutely hated doing this. Love Turbo, was awesome to meet at Cedar Lake. But again, I think this business is results driven, and outside of his big dome win last year, almost a year to the date, just struggled throughout the entire year, and was somebody that obviously we had hoped would take a step in the right direction. As much as we love him and his personality and the character that he is, you'd hope that he'd get a couple more post-race interviews to say some wild things. It just never happened. And again, it always felt like he was just struggling all the time in hot laps and qualifying. And that really, I feel like, set the tone for him every night throughout the year. He was at an uphill battle. And that it's tough to do in a series like this. So, yeah, it sucked. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, at the World Outlaws, that one night, I think it was the second night. I mean, he was bad.
Yeah.
Like a second off the pace when he qualified. So again, I absolutely hated doing that, but that's what I thought. And then should be no surprise, the number 1 boom, which I guess, was this expected, yes or no? But when you look at these stats,
Ouch.
I mean, this is the definition of boom. Ricky Thornton Jr., 52 starts, 42 top 10s, 41 top 5s, 23 wins. Finishes 3rd in the points. Finished 3rd again last year. I mean, these stats right here are
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. Can't make this up. And again, this is the definition of a boom, especially for the bank account. Yeah, obviously an out of this world year for him and knocked it out of the park. So there's no denying it. Was trying to find him more interesting or, hotter take than that. But when you start diving into stats, there was no other option. So, the number one boom of the year is Ricky Thornton Jr.
All right.
Those are my top three, boom and bust. And it appears as if when I get a slideshow going, I've yet to have a slideshow. Well, I guess I had the one last week where I had two slides. I had two slides, one series to watch and a picture. But outside of that, when I put together a slideshow, shit never goes right. Something wrong.
You Boston
Clicking through my
one.
slides too quick, showing you guys my slides before. Yeah.
Boston one of 2023.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it's a fun little exercise. Not exercise, but I'm just digging into the stats and
Yeah. So we're gonna pass it off to the tire changer himself. See what he's got cooking for us.
So I'll bring up some points as we go along here, but
There's gonna be controversy with this. I can tell already.
Yeah. So it definitely was
if
a
he
little
goes where I
hard.
think he's gonna go with this, he's gonna get punched through the screen.
It was kind of hard to actually get some stuff put together for this just because there's no definitive like stats as far as like starts, wins, top tens, top fives, that type of thing out there. I tried to use again our pal over at Super Late Model Rank as best as I could to put this list together. I stayed away from the limited late models, or not the limited late models, late model stocks out east, just because I wasn't super familiar with them, and again, maybe not a whole lot of stats to go off of. So I stuck with super late models. And I did a little bit more of booms and surprises versus busts and disappointments.
Okay. All right.
So that's kind of where I'm going. So mine are going to be my straight 3 busts and then 3 booms is the order that I'm going in for this. So first one that I got is Justin Mondyke. 33 race starts, less than 3 wins, at least that was registered. He's been in the past couple of years, and I think it really noticed itself this year when he runs with the ASA Midwest Tour and the ASA National Tour. There's a definite struggle as far as the competition they races against. Last year, he ran a ton of races between Norway, Slinger, Wassa. I mean, the guy ran a ton of races, and he did again this year. If I remember right, he had the most race events out of the entire super late model country with 33 races, but only 3 wins to back it up. Last year, I mean, Christ, it was any of those weekly shows, he was running them and winning them. I think he had 3 track championships last year, and nothing really to show for it this year. So really dropped off compared to the results that he had last year. It's a family run car and team, so I know obviously that's got a lot to do with it. Wrecking that car at Milwaukee definitely did not help that case. I mean, that car was junk, straight to the junkyard type of car. So that definitely probably didn't help his case at all. But that was definitely a disappointment that I felt like on the year. And obviously, I think he's very good behind the wheel. Hopefully, he can have a bounce back year going into next year. Next one, I think is going to surprise a couple, especially you, Kellen, is Casey Roderick. And mainly because it's just he started off the year strong, won the first ASA Stars Championship or race, was an early championship contender, and then whether it was money, sponsorship, something happened. He left Campy Motorsports and just was dropped off the map almost. Had a very limited schedule. Never really heard much from him. He did have 4 wins in 14 starts. I think part of that was probably the Southern Super Series that he was running. But yeah, just a guy that there was a lot of races that you'd expect him to be at, and he just wasn't at, just because again he kind of dropped off the map. Even on socials, I checked some of the socials. The last post I saw was, I think, from August, and that was to wish his brother a happy birthday. The last racer related post was in July.
Oh,
So it just dropped off the map. I saw a comment actually today from Matt Weaver that said, when Casey Roderick is in a field, super late model racing is in a good state. So the fact that he's not racing, it hurts racing as a whole just because of what he brings to the table. So that was one that I felt like was a disappointment. And I really, again, I wish that hopefully he can get out there, find a ride, sponsorship money, wherever the case may be, get back out on the scene, especially on that ASA Stars Tour, and really put a competition out there, because I think he would have been a really good one for Majeski and Butcher as well. Made that three car race going into the All American 400. This next one is kind of a two-parter, just because they shared similar struggles throughout the year, and I couldn't really pick one or the other. And this is kind of where the controversy comes in a little bit.
oh boy.
It helps that Cam went with a favorite of your guys's, because I think this is going to help soften it a little bit. I'm still probably going to get my ass kicked for it anyways, but I'm going to go for it anyways. Levon Vandergeest and Derek Kraus. So both of them were plagued with mechanical gremlins all throughout the year. I mean, we talked about it on our group chat throughout the entire year. He goes to Kakan, has an issue with an engine early in the year, goes to Madison for the Howie Letto, and loses his motor there, loses another motor at Lacrosse. So that's 3 big races, especially up here in the Midwest, that he's out just due to mechanical gremlins. Slinger Nationals had to race the last chance qualifier, actually took a provisional to get into that race. Misses out on the Snowball Derby after leading the last chance qualifying late. And then as far as the ranking goes, again, he had less than 10 starts. So it's in the very limited starts he had, it was very hit or miss. He had some good races. He ran third at Madison for the Sheer. He ran third at Kakana for the Dixieland 250. But again, just he had a lot of races where it was kind of hurt, basically. Same deal with Levon Vandergeest. Again, he got plagued with a lot of mechanical gremlins this year. A guy that you kind of expected to be kind of in the running for the ASA Midwest Tour Championship this year, just never was really there. He was 76th in 2023 as far as the rankings go. He had 22 race events run, and his wins weren't registered, at least on the list that I was looking at. So I think he had less than 3 wins on the year for what he had. So just again, another kind of disappointing year. Kind of had those higher expectations. Mechanical gremlins definitely caught him. And again, just the guys were super hit or miss on the year. So those were my.
Go ahead and finish.
Okay, I was gonna say those were just my busts or disappointments. Again, I think it's one of those that there were some extracurricular activities and scenarios that definitely hurt their years. But they were very noticeable as far as the other drivers that were out there this year.
I'm not going to call them out by name, but 2 of the guy that used to work on Kraus's car now is, I think he's Mondike's crew chief. So, yeah, he worked on Kraus's car for a while, and then was on the inside. Did worked on that, and now he's big time at Mondike, and he's his crew chief. So,
sure.
Kind of see a trend, I guess. They're both.
That's the other thing with Mondike too, is that he's had Noodleman in his quarter every once in a while too, and it seems to struggle here and there.
And, kind of going back to Mondike. I mean, no Tundra title, no Tundra, no State Park, no Midwest Tour, no Norway. Like those were all deals that he hammered last year.
Yeah.
The one that really surprised me was the State Park.
Yep. Well, it's his home track.
Yeah, he pretty much
dominate that place.
Yeah, he owns that place for the most part. But yeah,
And I didn't look, and I could probably do that real quick if I
you
can
sure?
figure this out.
You're sharing the screen with us, by the way.
Yeah, we'll just do this real
Make sure
quick.
you got all your bad tabs down.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna do this.
The truth comes out.
Yeah, I'm trying. I just want to see how he did at
Get, get,
State
get
Park.
him down before we have to rate this episode.
Yeah.
Let's see, Deachens.
Start over
He
again
finished
tomorrow.
5th in the Deachens race at State Park.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, bring us back. Bring us home.
Yep. So here are my booms or my surprises on the year. First one is Sawyer Efforts. In his 15 starts, mainly at WIR. He was the Wisconsin International Raceway Track champion and the red, white, and blue champion. He swept the red, white, and blue races, which is a pretty prestigious honor up here in the Midwest to be able to run those races and sweep those races. WIR is a very challenging racetrack. So it'll be a way to check championship there against some of the competition. I mean, there's Sommers there in the background. Always a prestigious race. And again, 6 wins on the year, mainly coming from Wisconsin International Raceway. He definitely just dominated the year over there. He ended up finishing 10th this year in the 2023 rankings of the super late model rankings, which, that's a surprise in its own right. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So shows what kind of competition is there and how well he ran throughout the year. So that was my first real surprise. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's a really good surprise to throw in there.
And
My
I mean,
next one is
just had to throw it out there, but if I had to guess, this car's not supposed to be looking like
sideways like that.
with the wheel turned to the right.
No. So that was I got
Buddy's got elbows up right now.
Yep. So I got that photo from my race pass, and my race pass is purely driver driven as far as their accounts go. So that is the photo he chose for that account.
Yep.
Good looking car though.
It is a good looking car.
I like the number in the front, big sponsor in the middle.
Yep. Yeah, just that blue and black. Yeah, it's just a slick race car.
Sorry.
And if I remember reading right too, I think it's his first championship since 2012 as well. So it's been a long time coming for a good season for him.
Sorry, I just totally ruined your next one.
No, you're fine. Bubba Pollard, kind of a resurgence year for him. Kind of struggled a little bit last year. So 7 wins and 27 starts, which is tied in the country for 2023 with Ty Majeski. He was the inaugural winner at North Wilkesboro with the ASA Stars Tour. He won the Rattler 250 this year. 3 wins in the Southern Super Series, including in the Blizzard Series at Five Lakes Speedway, and obviously a very strong Snowball Derby performance this year before those circumstances happened. So a little bit of a bounce back year for Bubba Pollard. Got his name back in the mix and shows why he's good at what he does and why he's a threat anywhere that he goes as well. And he got a very strong showing a little bit in the ASA races that he ran. A very strong showing for them as well.
Snakes are gross.
Snakes are gross.
If you haven't seen the video, is it Ultimate Lap of like the last 18 laps of Snowball Derby? If you haven't checked it on social medias where you can hear the spotters and Bubba and Nasty and Majeski and those guys, highly recommend you go give that a listen.
Yes. Very good footage. Probably one of the best videos on the year, honestly.
Sure.
So number 1 on my boom, really it is a boom, and I don't think it's going to be no surprise. I kind of took the low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's got to be Ty Majeski. I mean, just, again, another dominant year in super late models. Obviously, the inaugural ASA Stars National Champion. He was, like I said, tied for first with Bubba for wins on the year, 17 wins in 18 events, 11 top 5s, 3 Stars National Tour wins, with wins including the Slinger Nationals, Gandra 250, which was the Stars race, and then obviously Snowball Derby this year. So pretty self-explanatory.
And the Joe Shear.
Yep.
By default, but he was there.
Still a win nonetheless.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, it's pretty low hanging fruit, but and we talked about this last week, talking about the Snowball Derby. It's wherever he goes, he's going to be a very, very high threat as far as winning that race, no matter what it is. And it's the reason why. I think he's also number 2 right now in the rolling rankings since that's our friend at Super Late Model Rankings. Since he started that list, I think he's number 2, which means a lot with the limited schedule that he runs on the Super Lates.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Got an interesting follow-up question, him being number 1, to throw out to the group at the end of it. So I'll hold my.
I mean, that's all I got. That pretty much wraps it up. Like I said, it was a little hard to find some stats. I know, again, Super Late Model Rankings, he's putting some driver stats together to hopefully really give out some analytics. But going off of the rankings and various top 10s, top 5s that I could find, that was how I kind of compiled my list.
Sweet. All right. Well, hell yes. We got 2 series down, 2 series, 2 cars, however you want to approach it.
Yeah. Cam, what was your follow-up question?
Yeah, let's hit that quick.
Nope, Kellen, it's gonna be I gotta see your list, and then I'm gonna throw it to everybody at the end.
I got an idea where you're going, but all right.
Okay. All right.
We got a pretty good prediction of Kellen's busts. Could head just right on over yonder to SHR.
So,
I was about to say that's the other thing. We've been really kind of hitting. I mean, given with the two series and racing types of racing that we hit more drivers than we have teams themselves.
So speak of the devil, Van Grohl, that's a very great segue because you guys chose individual drivers. I went with organizations.
Which I would get in the NASCAR Cup Series versus local stuff.
I went with the NASCAR Cup Series. So I went boomer bust, and we are going purely on organization. So I found
number 3 bust, SHR. Actually, no, that's number 1. Whoa!
I mean, yeah, we he hit the nail on the head with the rock there. But so kind of looking at it from an organizational standpoint, certain organizations kind of stood out, others not so much. And here's where I kind of went right away in my initial thought. I think Stewart Haas Racing struggled bad, struggled all year. No wins, 13 top 5s, and this is among all 4 drivers, mind you, compiled stats, 13 top 5s, 29 top 10s, an average start of 18.8, average finish of 18.9 in 4 poles with 663 laps led. So when I looked at this, it's usually not good when your average finish is higher than your average start.
Worse, you mean?
Yeah, higher. You want low number of wins. Numero uno is the winner.
It would be it's not good if your average finish is worse than your average start.
Correct. You're going backwards.
Yeah.
As an organization. So I felt like, and Ham alluded to it right away. I mean, it was a given. And I think, Kevin Harvick's getting out of there. You're gonna have Josh Berry in there. We're still pending what they're gonna do with the 10. If you follow the NASCAR Reddit, I think there's a pretty good idea, including a snowball derby entry that was running a Ford nose that ran a Chevy at the Winchester. So
hint, wink, wink.
Yep. So that's where we're at with Stewart Haas Racing. So
how'd you get that? How'd you get that Caterpillar for bullet points on the right there with drivers?
I centered it in the text box. I don't know. That's what it was. Give me a break.
If we're getting on a hook on that, you're focusing on our stuff.
Yeah. Next up, I went every other here. So here you got your first boomer of the year. Hendrick Motorsports.
So are these should have prefaced asked this question first. Is this number 1?
No, I didn't really rank them per se.
Got it. Okay.
So we could go through it and do it. So Hendrick Motorsports, one of my boomers, with Elliott, Bowman, Byron, and Larson. 10 wins, 42 top 5s, 67 top 10s, average start of 14.4, average finish of 14.3, 7 poles, and I think the biggest number that I was impressed with was the 2,441 laps led. So you want to talk about running up front and being there all the time? Hendrick said, "Yep, that's us." Now, you could argue that heavily that has come from 2 drivers. So you could go in within the organization, you could go 2 and 2 and say you got 2 boomers and 2 busters. So when you look internally, but I think as a whole, when you look at it, Hendrick Motorsports, they did all right this year.
I think another point to make out too, you know, you kind of hinted at it with the 2 booms and 2 busts. Byron and Larson were 2 of the 4 championship contenders.
Yep, for sure. So that alone was a deciding factor for me that you got 2 of the 4 cars, you got 50% chance of winning the title, per se.
Still didn't get it.
Right.
Hendrick led 3.68 times more laps than Stuart Haas.
Yep.
I wonder if I can find out. I just want to know, like, that lap percentage. What percentage of laps led were Hendrick this year?
A lot. Good
Well, let's
chunk.
get into the next bus. Let's see where things go.
All right. Next up, Hog Racing. I think so. I gave them the rock.
Oh, yeah, Brock, my bad.
Unfortunately, I gave them the rock for this year. I expected more with Allmendinger and Haley. I expected them to find their stride at some point. It just felt like they were always struggling in qualifying or struggling in practice, and they couldn't find it and they couldn't get ahead. I just felt like as an organization, I just felt we're going to be up front a little bit more. So 1 win, 5 top 5s, 13 top 10s, average start of 22.8, average finish of 20.3, 0 poles and 88 laps led. So, you know, they're going forward, but they're still behind, even though they're going forward. So, I think when you look at that statistically, I was waiting for them to break out a little bit. You know, they're good on the plates. With that 2-car team, they just Colleague knows how to get a team to work together at the restrictor plates. But especially those intermediate tracks, those mile and a half, I just expected them to come with a little more speed. So,
Road courses would be another one too that they excelled at.
Yep, absolutely. But when you look at the meat and potatoes of the schedule, with those mile and a half, I just expected more. So
I got 2 letters that we could increase those results, but I'll save that for another episode.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Touch back real quick on that Hendricks, just because I was curious. Those laps led
at DK. He rules.
Hendrick Motorsports led 26% of laps this year.
So 1 of every 4 laps they led.
I just had to throw that out there because I was curious.
Yep. Cam, I hear you, man. Loud and clear.
Yep.
Crystally clear.
And then I put him on my busts or disappointments for super lates.
All right, going forward here. All right, Trackhouse Racing. I think this is going to come as a surprise that they got the rock.
Really?
I gave them the rock. You know, they had 4 wins, 20 top 5s, 10 or 40 top 10s, average start of 14.3, average finish of 16.9. So heavy increase there. 2 poles, 903 laps led. So that is between your 2 trusty steeds in Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain. I think now last year, obviously, everyone's seen the video of Martinsville. I just expected one of those 2 cars to race their way into the Final 4. I don't know why I had that in my mind. I just expected that team was going to break out a little bit. And I say breakout, I mean I'm talking playoffs. I expected them to be there. I expected them to be ready to go. They had some great races. They also had some really, really bad races. So when it started to get to September and October, I expected Trackhouse to be in the conversation. It didn't feel like they were. So that's kind of my rationale behind them getting a rock,
I
unfortunately.
don't I don't want to fact check you, but where did their 4 wins come from? SVG, Chastain.
Chastain had 2.
Yeah.
Where did their 4th one come from?
Uh-oh.
Only had
Oh.
3. I'm looking at it right now.
All right.
All right, so we all had something go wrong in our presentations today.
Take that. So it'd be, yeah, you could knock that down. That'd be 19 top fives and 39 top tens.
I mean, doesn't change the stone.
No, it
So
absolutely doesn't.
overall, probably makes the stone a little bit bigger, actually.
Correct that as well. So like I said, my justification behind them is when I saw that, I was thinking playoffs. That's where I expected them to have guys with experience that would be ready to go. So I was thinking playoffs for them.
They're dragging that boulder behind their car.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, he had to throw one of the guys a bone here. He's shooting everybody else in the foot, so I felt like I had to give him one. Team Penske, kind of with Blaney, Logano, and Cindric. So when I'm looking at this here, you got 4 wins, 20 top fives, 40 top tens. Average start of 14.3, average finish of 16.9, 2 poles, 903 laps led. So I did this kind of with the premise of our flagship, Mr. Blaney here, bringing home the title. So you want to talk about booming when you can bring home and hang a banner in the shop, you're doing all right. So, you could even say Logano struggled this year. Cindric struggled this year. But when you come back and you can hang a championship banner in the shop, that's a boomer without a doubt. So
I would not have been surprised if you would have put them as a rock, honestly. I would not have been surprised, and I would not have argued against you.
yeah, no, it's you really could go both ways, but I just think hanging the banner in the shop is what
100%.
did it. So
That's back-to-back years.
That is true.
yep.
Yep.
And I will say, I just said we're not calling for people's jobs. But
That bottom one there?
that bottom one there, Cindric has not.
It's the seats
I
getting
thought
I think.
in his second year we would see, hey, improved results, but I don't think we're
Yeah.
not seeing that.
I mean, I think that also goes hand in hand with Ford struggles. I mean, it was well documented that Ford, as a whole manufacturer, other than RFK, and I don't know how they did it, struggled this year.
True.
They definitely kicked on as of later half of the year, and I think that started with Busher, and then it carried over to Blaney at the later part of the year. Yeah, again, you can make a case either way for Penske.
Yep. The title was what pushed them over the edge. So Team Penske gets one there, throw a guy a bone. Next one. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, here we go. You led me right into it.
Speak of
Talk
the
about
devil.
RFK. Yep. With Brad K and Chris Buescher. I mean, did anyone see this coming? No.
I would have honestly thought it would have been the other way around.
Yep.
That Keselowski would have been the 3 wins, and all that, and
Yep. For sure. So 3 wins, 16 top fives, 33 top tens, an average start of 14.6, average finish of 13.3. No poles, but 596 laps led between the squad. So, yeah, that was out of nowhere, and especially coming from a Ford camp. And Ford, you could say, downright struggled this year. And obviously, they've addressed that with the new dark horse that they're going to call it. So I think Ford knew that they needed to address it, but RFK is probably like, hey, hold on a second here. We don't want this new body just yet. we're good with where we're
Wicked.
at.
Yeah.
Make a few tweaks and be up front every week. So, um, yeah, then we got RFK. I believe that is my last
I
one.
will say one thing right now before you exit that slide.
Yeah,
Wow, do I like that logo?
it
Yeah.
is kind of like, the R just catches the guy's attention.
Yeah, the RFK. I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
that's
I was
sweet.
listening back to an old episode of ours, trying to get some videos cut and all that, and I made a comment about Chris Buescher. I'm like, hey, he's hot at the right time. He could make a deep playoff run. You guys made fun of me earlier, and then I think he ended up winning that week, or he ran good, and you guys were like, kind of eating your words a little bit.
I'll admit it, I was.
So no,
I mean,
I definitely agree.
do you expect anything less on this podcast? Us saying
Absolutely
some
not.
outrageous things and then eating our words the next week.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Any
Um,
any initial knee jerk reactions,
Well,
questions?
Cam, you said you
No?
had a question. Let's
yeah, I
start
was
with
gonna
you.
throw it out to you guys and just seeing now where everybody's at. When you thought about boom or bust, I guess you guys. I would say we are all more so results driven, but I guess I was thinking about it. Were you thinking, boom or bust? Was it more results or expectations? Because I think I could have flip flopped some of mine based on results and expectations.
I
You know,
think
did
mine I think mine kind of go hand in hand to each other. You know, Bod Dyke, he ran a lot of races, but the results weren't there because the expectations were high as well. Casey Roderick, the expectations were high, had some results, but had something happen that you didn't exactly meet those expectations. The Vandergeest and Kraus, again, you had a mixture of results, but the expectations, especially on Vandergeest's side of things, I think were higher than what the results ended up being.
so I guess you're more so did they meet their expectations?
Yep. I
Yeah, I
think
think
really when it comes to results, I think Kraus was really the only one that really boiled down to the results itself.
yeah, I think for me I would say a little bit of hand in hand, but you could argue that Trackhouse had a better season than potentially you could argue them against Penske head to head. You could flip those two.
Yeah.
But again, I kind of went expectation on the idea of having two veteran guys in the camp. I thought they were going to be round at least one guy round 8 in the top 4, fighting for it. Right
I
there.
I thought Chastain was going to be that guy.
Yep, me too. And I expected that. And again, last year was a complete and utter anomaly with the wall ride and this other whatever else he did. But for me, I expected him to put himself in that scenario again to be racing into the final 4.
And the fact that with Trackhouse too, that one of their wins came from SVG in his first career start on the Chicago Street Course.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, it was a little mix of both, I would say. It really depended when I looked at and kind of my reactions when I was looking at teams to put in here. What was my initial knee jerk reaction when I saw Penske? What did I think? Championship, got it. When I saw
So
Trackhouse, what did I think? Needed more in the playoffs.
I mentioned last week, like at the very end of it, that I had two names written down right away. They were two names that did not make my list, but two booms that I had, actually three really, that made my list were Brian Sierkeski, Jacob Nottestad, and
Yeah.
William Sawalich
Oh yeah,
for
Swallow.
booms.
Yeah, you could easily argue Swallow him without a doubt.
When you
But
talk about knee jerk reactions.
yep, that was kind of how I initially kind of sorted them is when I was looking at Cup teams. I'm like, all right, what do you think? All right, well, when you think of Hendrick, you think Larson and Byron, just trusty steeds. You could bet on them any week. RFK, total surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of and then I looked into it a little bit more and it kind of justified how I felt when I was initially thinking about it.
Cam,
Yeah,
I
as-
think yours was definitely a little bit of result, but I could see the expectations too, especially you threw in like the 2022 point standings.
Yeah, and I think, for me, I would say for me, it was when I was looking at the final standings, it was like right away, it's like, okay, looked at, guys that had 35 or more starts. All right, those guys. And then all of a sudden it was like, you look at the list of, I think there's 15 of them that had 35 or more starts in 2023. And right away it was like, I would say for me, it was like, all right, is this where I expected them to be? And then bullet point 2 was, let's get into the stats and break it down. And then I think, between the two of them, it's like, okay, come to a conclusion, like, Hudson O'Neal, a boom, you know. Did I expect him to be up number one, being the Rocket House car? It's pretty high expectations.
Some pretty smart guys turning wrenches on that thing too.
Correct. So did he hit expectations winning the whole deal? Yep. Let's dig into stats. Well, 53 features and 32 top fives.
Checks the box.
Checks the box.
Yeah.
Moran, second in points. Did he meet expectations? Surpassed.
Yep.
To be racing, lock himself in that final four.
Damn near win it.
And then if Hudson O'Neal doesn't do Hudson O'Neal things and put that right rear on the wall and have some sparks flying,
Yeah, Devin Moran could be looking at a title.
he's looking at a title and a big check. So that was kind of my process. Again, fun to do. But yeah, and think about Hudson. How does he not have a right rear quarter panel for sale after every race?
Probably does. It's just it doesn't leave the pit area before it gets to the merchandise hauler.
Cam, who were like, Van Girl kind of listed a couple of guys. Who would have been like your next one or two guys like off a list or two?
Off the list, that was
Either
Honorable
one.
mentions.
Yeah, like guys that you considered.
um 2 busts. Kind of surprising. Well, not really surprising. Dalton Wilson.
Yeah.
Somebody who was at everything. 53 starts, 14 top tens or top fives, 20 top tens. Max Blair.
He was pretty quiet this year.
Yeah, 1 win. But
Yeah.
then you kind of get into, since I cut it at 35 races, because I didn't want to, I'm not punishing Jimmy Owens for not getting a win when he only raced 20 races at 24 Lucas Oil races. Like,
Right. Yeah.
Gary Alberson,
Dang it.
your neighbor.
Yep.
0 wins, 3 top fives, 16 top tens, 51 starts. I threw out Brandon Overton. That was I would say that was a more expectation. Only three wins, 26 top fives, 39 top tens.
I think the Eldora hiccup was his big kind of bump in the season.
Yeah. I threw out the idea, so this was my expectations of like initial thoughts. Tim McCready, first thought that comes to mind.
Struggled.
So right away, I'm like, Tim McCready, yeah, he's going on there. Bust. But then you look at it, it's like he finished 5th in the points.
Yeah.
52 starts, 41 top tens, 22 top fives, 2 wins.
That ain't bad.
No, so I was like, again, just another quiet year, but that was somebody who I was like, okay, first question, expectations. T-Mac definitely didn't hit him. But then you like start backing into some of the stats, it's like, okay, yeah, he had a pretty quiet but dang good year. So yeah, those are some of the guys I was throwing around in my head. Spencer Hughes. I was thinking, looking at him, 54 starts, 0 wins, six top fives. But again, not
Yeah.
somebody, he's not a heavy hitter, has the reputation of McCready, Moran, RTJ has. So
Or yeah, Overton. Yeah. Well, what do we got for kind of final thoughts on what's been the boomer bust of 2023?
Another good conversation.
Some surprises.
Some hot takes.
Yep. You gotta hit everybody's favorite in the heart a little bit every once in a while, whether it's a good or a bad way.
You know,
Um,
it's a cutthroat. It's a cutthroat business, and
it
it
is.
even transfers over to the Tuesday track talk.
Yeah, for sure. Man, what a good conversation. That's kind of a good way to kind of segue us into um breaking development from the channel here in the last 24 hours, 48 hours, if you want to call it that. For all of you Spotify people, we got you. We have listened, we have answered the call. We've had a few people reach out, a few followers say, "Hey, man, it'd be awesome. Like, we love listening. We'd like to see you on Spotify." Solved, problem solved. We got you. Same deal, same logo, same name. Everything is over on Spotify. So as episodes come out on YouTube, um, go ahead and you can follow and hit the rating as well on Spotify. So another platform you can get a good listen. You can listen in your own way. Then I know Spotify is obviously a huge thing for the music and podcast world, but we have arrived.
Yep.
So
Listen,
pretty
listen at the track, listen at home, listen at church.
listen at work. Yeah, so pretty cool development there. So make sure to head over Spotify, get us a good listen on there. So those will be going up as well. Kind of like a last little wrap up here. We usually this is the point where we talk race previews, but for all of our fans, lucky for you guys, um, it's special edition week again. We are going to bring you a brand new episode Thursday night. So make sure you hit the bell. We are going to go live. We are going to do our episode live as Flo brings you the Gateway Dirt National. So going to be a little bit of both. We're going to follow along with Thursday night preliminary. We're going to give you an episode, but also some live reaction as we go through that as well. So as we hop on there, this can be literally an interactive episode. We can bring you our picks for both the mods and the supers. You got picks, drop them, put them in there. And we will do a little fan interaction for our special edition episode for the Gateway Dirt Nationals.
I think we had a hell of a time with the snowball derby, and I think
That's
we're gonna have I think we're gonna have a good time with this as well.
and it'll be a full crew. It won't be a
Yep.
part crew. So make sure to fire off questions, thoughts, reactions. And then we'll go from there with the Gateway Dirt National. So really no preview because we're gonna preview it while we're there. We got a pick there. We will also bring you our picks, our race picks on Thursday night. So we always got picks. We're gonna bring them to you. We'll bring them to you on Thursday night as we're getting through the stream. So little snake draft for Gateway Dirt Nationals. Kind of last little touch point we got here for today before
I
we
call
wrap.
Kenny Wallace.
No, well, you do have first pick.
If you're going mods, you get first pick, then you can have them.
I'm going Kenny Wallace and I'm going Joseph Joyner in the Hunt the Front crew.
Well, I'm taking Mr. You Can't Park there, Charlie Mefford.
Oh
I'll
man.
take him. But yeah, so that'd be a good little deal. Make sure you get your bell hit so you can know when we go live on that deal as well. And then kind of thinking about the actual next full episode, if you want to call it that, for the podcast is next week. we're gonna bring you trivia. We're gonna do a little race trivia. Really no holds on the bars here. It's you each crew's gonna bring 10 questions, and we're gonna fire away and see who's can get them linked up and hot for the next episode. So
I've had a couple already come to mind that I'm excited to try out.
there's no surface, no car limits, no it's
Just
racing
like everything else we've damn near done, we're
Yeah.
coming in not knowing what the hell the other one's got.
Yup. Blind reeling. That's be really good for trivia night. So next week will be you'll get a good array of race recaps or trivia or flashbacks or iconic moments, whatever you want to name it in the racing world. So if you got some hints, you can drop them below and we can kind of see if we could get somebody to sneak one in there or even a fan top 10. So
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that'd be a good one. You could have Chase read them off to us.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, get the fan top 10 going. So yeah, if you got trivia questions, you got races you want us to bring questions to, make sure you drop them below. So that will be next week, a week from today when you're seeing this. So any last final thoughts before you're ready for Gateway Dirt Nationals?
No, we got two cans of gas in the car, ready to go. Fired up for Gateway Dirt Nationals. Love, obviously, I'm not going to keep beating this drum. I love dirt late models, and then furthermore, you just get a bull ring, just cars on each other immediately. You can get some wild cards. You can get Hey Dude in there.
Yeah.
Carpenter, who had a wild showing at Eldora.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll correlate to the dome.
No, I'm just looking forward to it. Obviously a huge event. A lot of big names go to it. And so looking forward to it. Yeah, huge event. I'd say this one also put this on the list of races that the crew needs to get some boots on the ground at sometime.
Yeah.
Bucket lister for sure.
I know I'm be traveling. I got a family Christmas deal this weekend, and I got a feeling I'm gonna be checking the phone pretty often, especially on Saturday. And if I can get out kind of early enough and make my way back to the office here, or the throne here, I might have full racing up on the car and on the speakers on the way back. So a little bit as do as I say, not as I do type of thing. But you got to get the racing when you got it.
For sure, especially a big crown jewel like this one.
Yeah.
So, well, that wraps up another wild, interesting, and debated podcast here for the Tuesday Track Talk. Make sure you got everything tuned in for Thursday night. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you all next week.